Hi there everyone, this is Amanda, the emotional strength trainer. I thought I would come along and give you a lesson in what emotional trauma making you sick is. So thank you for joining me if you are popping along. Hopefully there's a little person down in the bottom corner. Hello! The Nourish Effect, I just saw you pop in. So there's a little person down in the bottom corner with a number on it. If you think that teaching people about how blocked emotion can make you sick, then I encourage you to hit that little person and share this scope with your peeps and your people on your list. So yes, thank you for joining me, Cordy. I'm so glad you're here. You can see how organic these things are allowed to be. So, and the lights, you can see all my beautiful windows in my glasses as well as my nostrils. Okay, so let's get back on topic. Essentially, emotional trauma can make you sick. It will make you sick. It will make you sick. Now, that can extend from anything to do with anxiety, depression, sore throats even. People that have recurring sore throats, which I'll talk about in a minute, that innocuous type thing, colds, all of those sorts of things, you will find that there is some level of stress or an emotional block, and if they're recurring, that means that there's something underlying. Now, I must state straight up, I'm medically friendly. I am not somebody that advocates that you ignore medicine. What I'm saying is have your medicine route and then investigate the emotional trauma that may have existed in your life. Now, next important message. Trauma means different things to different people. So the word itself, trauma, may indicate, chopping your arm off or something like that. But when things start early, especially in childhood, you have to take into account that a child's brain may equate something to be traumatic that an adult wouldn't. Okay, so that's important to understand, that traumas that start early get tucked away, and especially as children, when adults aren't coping and they don't want to have to deal with children as well, or if the child is the part that's creating trauma for them, then they have a diminished capacity to cope, so that will then create trauma. And if you don't deal with it, it finds somewhere nice to sit in your body, and then it starts to fester up and layer up and those sorts of things. So let me get rid of my glasses here. Let me see if that helps, because I can see the reflection. Okay, so the next part of the equation is different organs in the body hold different emotions, and there's a couple of people who have done significant work around that, Louise Hay being one of them, and Carolyn Myss is also another leading voice in understanding the parts of the body. And there's also another very good technique called neuroemotional technique that a chiropractor developed a long time ago around the different parts of the body and what that equates to. So liver is anger, kidneys are fear, stomach is disgust, all sorts of things. I do have a very groovy list, which I didn't pull out in preparation. See, organic, Cordy, I tell you. Anyway, okay, so understanding when something is recurring and even the medicine isn't working. So especially given the trend or the evolution of antibiotics. Remember a while ago they were talking about superbugs and that people need the higher level of antibiotics. What I'm suggesting is that you delve into understanding emotional trauma, and that trauma being what is traumatic for you, and then linking the dots back to how it can work. So let's talk about tonsils, given that we're coming into the cold season and the flus, and we've all started to get the warnings about flu epidemics and those sorts of things. Anything to do with your throat is to do with communication. So if you're not speaking the words that you want to speak, or you're swallowing anger, or you're swallowing words because you don't want to upset anyone, I know I grew up in a family that children we, as children, we weren't allowed to have an opinion. We weren't allowed to show our emotions unless we were happy. And I remember seeing something recently. We hold our children to a much higher standard of communication than what adults are actually capable of. You know, don't you get upset, don't you cry, all those sorts of things. So understanding that if you're swallowing things and it's getting stuck in here, so that can mean recurring tonsillitis. Plus, the other big part of the puzzle, I work on the trio of health, which is actually a square because there's spirituality involved. But chemical, so what you put in your mouth; structural, how your spine is aligned, and because all of your nervous system comes from the spinal column, and if there's interference in the spine, that can create dis-ease or the messages can't get through. And then emotional. And then the spiritual is the stuff up above your head, floating and things. Little bit of unicorn, not so much unicorn, but anyway. So with the throat stuff, that can also mean that it's a great indicator, especially if you're getting recurring tonsillitis, that you have something upsetting your gut. Okay, so together with understanding, are you swallowing words that you should be speaking out aloud? It's not in your head either, it is out aloud. Are you eating something that is making your gut upset, which includes food intolerances, often wheat, dairy? Some people, in my experience, I've been involved working in this industry since the late 80s and early 90s, and some people have food intolerances around acidic stuff, so oranges, strawberries, tomatoes. Then there's a combination intolerances that people eating things together, it can create disharmony, interruptions within your system. But again, going back and having a look at the emotional foundation that you're working from, then you will start to piece the puzzles together that will help you get good with it's a big picture. That's why I say I'm medically friendly. Medicine has come too far to have it discredited. And at the end of that sentence, natural therapies have come too far to be discredited when it has to be about the individual outcome, not who's right or wrong, but the individual outcome about who we're talking to, what their individual story is, and how can we get to the bottom of what is ailing you. Now, I come from the place of an emotional trauma, but I also have a very clear understanding of how to then connect the dots, join the dots to what you're eating, what your structural health is like, those sorts of things. And it's part of the plan, okay? And you can have amazing outcomes. Now, as I've said right at the beginning of this scope, anything from a sore throat through to anxiety, depression, all the way through to chronic illnesses, say, for example, autoimmune disease, lupus, those sorts, that kind of level, Lyme disease. There are elements, I will guarantee, kind of, sort of, almost 100%, because I don't want to get too far into the story. There's another level that I can discuss here on this one. But autoimmune diseases, start scratching the surface on the person who has it or you're talking to, and I will guarantee nearly that they have some high-level emotional trauma in their life, and the autoimmune system, the immune system shuts down because they don't know how to process or get out of the conditioning or the patterns that they've lived in. Then that also can extend to the big whammy cancers. Okay, now if you understand cancer, it is like your body's way of saying, I can't handle this anymore, and it festers and grows, and it's, I also have a belief, and again, please understand this is a blanket scope, all right? So there's much more in-depth conversation to have around this. But the secondary cancers, liver, anger, I know I'd be pissed off if I got cancer and I was being taken out of the life that I thought I was having, or how it happened to be in my life. Those sorts of things. Spinal cancer, it's the support. I know with having done a fair bit of work around women with breast cancer, one of the things that happens with people who get cancer is this barrage of, have you had poor tea? Have you had shark cartilage? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Blah, 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 blah. It's just this onslaught. And then if you choose to do a certain route with your health, and I will remind you, it's your choice. It's not somebody else's right to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. It's what's right for you. Then it's this, do I keep people happy? And then the thought of dying, because, once people get the big C word, that's one of the biggest emotional burdens that we have is, am I going to die? And then understanding the fear associated with that. And again, that's one of the biggest emotions that causes so much in humanity is fear. Okay, if you can understand fear, you can understand and start building your join the dots and those sorts of things. So, that's all I wanted to really share today. So it is a big blanket concept, but essentially the work that I do is I help to identify what is your puzzle looking like. What is the box that you turn up with all the bits all over the place and you can't even find the corner bits to help you start building anything. That's where I come in. And it's quite a cool therapy because I set my intention that to make the journey gentle. I don't want people to be on the floor sobbing and unable to cope with their life because of the emotional impact of what they're finally understanding to be their truth. So I do hope that I have roused your questions and that you are keen to sort of follow a path or to share this with anyone that you know. And I look forward to perhaps seeing you on my website, which is amandafoy.com.au. And there's a couple of videos and some information there for you as well. Thank you for joining me. And Cordy, if you're still the last one there, thank you for staying. I really appreciate the support. And I look forward to sharing some more scopes with you soon. Bye for now.